On the 11th day of Jizmas, I reviewed Demonic Hair.
Bayonetta.
When I first thought about playing this game, I was warned. No, I was nigh forbidden from doing so. I was told to stay far, far away from this game. Why? Well, let's see. I guess I didn't do all that great during my playthrough of Metal Gear Rising. I was able to brute force my way to the end, but I never really got a handle on the gameplay, particularly the slicing gimmick. But this isn't the main reason. The real reason I was warned is because I did a playthrough of the original Devil May Cry for PS2, and let's just say I sorta had a rough time. I'm not sure what it was, but for the life of me, I just could not get any semblance of a grip on how the game was supposed to work. The whole game is about styling and combos, and I couldn't do a single one. And because I couldn't do a single one, I was punished exponentially as the game went on. Usually I love bosses, they're probably my favorite things in games, but here I just didn't know what the heck I was supposed to do with these things. I couldn't get a read on anything. Ironically, I had an easier time with the final boss than any of the others in the game, but that took a lot of pain and struggling to get to. The only thing that saved my playthrough, that one glimmer of hope in the entire run, was the grenade launcher. Blast and dodge, baby. Blast and dodge. So anyway, to cut a long story short, DMC was sort of a torturous experience for me, and I was told that if that's how I felt about it, then Bayonetta would feel very much the same. Well, guess what, Fact? You were wrong. I really enjoyed Bayonetta. Yeah, I don't know what you were worried about. I had a good time. So most of you are probably at least somewhat aware of Bayonetta at this point. You play as this badass witch who is constantly either playfully flirting or insulting her enemies as she confidently beats them to a pulp, often both at the same time. There's this whole storyline about her having to fight off these vengeful angels who are trying to use her as a sacrifice to resurrect some great creator or something, and there's this little girl who suddenly appears and keeps calling Bayonetta Mummy a lot. No, seriously, about 95% of her dialogue is literally just, Mummy, Mummy.
Mummy, 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 Mummy.
Do you like it when she calls you Mummy?
But anyway, the story isn't really what's important here. What's important is the gameplay. And the gameplay happens to be an excellent combination of challenging yet fun. Yeah, I'm not sure what it is exactly with DMC that gave me so much trouble, but in Bayonetta, everything just clicks a lot more naturally for me. The dodging, the combos, the big punish moves, the timing, it all just makes sense. Now, I'm not saying that I just plowed through the game no problem. I died plenty of times. If you're not paying attention, the game will make you pay for it. You're not even safe during cutscenes, as they'll often end with an enemy in mid-attack, chunking your health with a sucker punch before the fight's even begun, unless you were mashing the dodge button in advance. While I did enjoy the game overall, there were a lot of little things about the game that irked me as well. The ranking system in general is super harsh, punishing you for the smallest things, such as accidentally skipping past battles, or even for simply using health. How many games can you think of where you get points taken away from healing? In most games, optional hidden side missions are only there to give you bonus rewards if you happen to find them. In Bayonetta, there's tons of secretive missions that are easily missed, which only end up subtracting from your total rank at the end of the chapter, making it so even though you may have gotten lots of silver and gold ranks, the missed missions tanks you down to a bronze or even a stone statue. It's not my fault those missions got skipped, I didn't see them. There's also some pretty BS insta-deaths in the game. Some that happen during normal gameplay, and others that happen from sudden QuickTime events that you often don't see coming. Usually the button prompt is just fine, a clear image of the button you need to press, but for some reason, they decide to show the entire freaking controller at an awkward angle during these QTEs. Whenever this happens, I find myself blanking out and having to scan down the controller to see what buttons it wants me to hit, instead of just seeing a clear direction arrow and a button, and instantly knowing what to do. The most valuable battle mechanic in the game is Witch Time, which is activated by perfectly dodging an opponent's attack at the last second. This slows down time, giving you an opening to punish an enemy that would otherwise punish you for daring to combo them outside of Witch Time. While this is awesome when it works, the game is strangely inconsistent about which enemy attacks will grant you Witch Time and which won't. It's something that you'll have to figure out through trial and error, and even then it just seems to be arbitrary which attacks it works on. While this is only a minor annoyance for the most part, and made up for with the fact that every enemy has something that you can witch time off of, there is one particular duo of enemies where this annoyance becomes a full-blown issue. Gracious and Glorious. These two assholes are souped up versions of what is already probably the most aggressive and deadly non-boss enemies in the game. Heck, you could argue they're even worse to deal with than any of the bosses, and I'll tell you why. Pretty much every enemy in the game can be stunned in one way or another. I found this roundhouse kick in particular to be super effective to just about everything. Even bosses would get stunned by it, leaving them open for a large follow-up hit. These guys, however, refuse to flinch from anything you do, which is only made worse by the fact that they attack with incredible speed. You try even the simplest combo and you're getting hit. Okay, easy solution, right? We just have to dodge their attacks and witch time their asses. Except that's the thing. These are the only enemies in the entire game whose attacks you cannot witch time off of. Yes, that includes the bosses. Yes, this includes the final boss. Now you see my problem, right? It's like these enemies were specifically designed to be dealt with using witch time, yet somehow none of their attacks will grant you it. Now, if I'm super careful and attack from a distance, I can slowly chip away their health while staying safe. But that's just not fun. It's tiring and monotonous. I honestly wonder if this was an accident, as I can't see why they would be programmed like this on purpose. Another thing I wish was a little different was the way that magic is handled, or rather your lack of options with it as a new player. At default, you only have a single use of your magic meter, which is to perform a powerful torture attack on enemies once it's filled up. Other than that, you're unable to do anything with it unless you purchase specific upgrades in the shop. Keep in mind, these upgrades can get quite expensive, with the most helpful and fun being so expensive that you can save up for the entire game and maybe end up with one or two at the most. I always felt like I was letting my magic meter go to waste because I didn't have any abilities to utilize it, especially on those larger enemies and bosses that didn't let you use the torture attack on them. I get that the pro players would probably get so many points from chapters that they'd easily be able to afford all the best gear, but most people aren't going to achieve that on a first playthrough. Bayonetta is very much a trial and error type of game. Ironically, the expensive upgrades was also an issue I had in Devil May Cry, although in that case, the result of not being able to afford them was a lot more detrimental to the player overall. I feel like if they gave you another default ability that used magic from the start, or maybe dropped the prices in the shop to a more reasonable level, then it would give first-time players a lot more fun options in combat. All those little gripes aside, I really did enjoy Bayonetta a lot more than most of those other recent character action games. The gameplay is great once you learn it, the characters are fun, and there's some really epic boss fights to keep the excitement up throughout. I think it goes without saying, but I'm really looking forward to playing more games in this series.